Hello guys, this is Malachi Branch Productions here today with another tier list video. It's been a couple days since we've done one. The last one was the ultimate anime and cartoons tier list. But today we're going to delve into more of the cartoon side of things like we usually do again. And this tier list is going to be one that I don't know if you guys were necessarily expecting, but I've been wanting to make for the past couple of days because of just how much I've been fucking watching the show. And yeah, as you saw by the thumbnail and the title, it's the Ed, Edd n Eddy franchise tier list. Now, this tier list, I actually made the format myself, and I'll link it in the description if you follow me on Twitter. I'll also advertise it. But yeah, Ed, Edd n Eddy, I'm just gonna be honest, I think now I could just safely say it's my favorite Cartoon Network show. And yeah, I fucking love Ed and Eddy. I don't know if I've told anyone this before, but I've been watching a fuck ton of Ed and Eddy clips and compilations on YouTube, and once I got that complete series set that I made a video on, I've been watching that a lot too, and thankfully that's the only real way I can watch show episodes past season 2, because again, season 2 was the last season they released on DVD in the US, but yeah, thankfully I did find that complete series set, and it literally has everything, and I've got to watch even more stuff outside of just the episodes. Like, I finally caught up on all the specials, I watched the movie, and yeah, I just really like this freaking show, and unfortunately I have not been able to find any tier lists that just solely focus on the show. I mean, there are character tier lists and stuff like that, but no, like, straight up season or episode or tier lists like that. So I decided to go out of my way and make one myself. So yeah, I decided to go out of my way to include everything. We have seasons 1 through 5. I also included season 6, which wasn't really that necessary because, I mean, season 6 only had 2 episodes. But again, for completion purposes, I decided to include that. Anyway, I also again included all the specials, including the Eds Are Coming. I also included all the holiday specials, the Christmas, Halloween, and Valentine's Day ones, and of course I also had to include Big Picture Show, which is the finale. But yeah, I already decided to go out of my way and make the tier list, so I am spoiling the placements of each item on the list. But again, we'll talk about these in order, just to be again technical and also go by each one. But yeah, first we are going to talk about season 1, which I have in A tier now. Something I've actually been kind of surprised about is like going looking through YouTube comment sections and stuff like that in other areas. For some reason I see quite a bit of people say that Ed and Eddy season 1 was very rough, or Ed and Eddy didn't get off on the right foot or stuff like that. And yeah, I don't quite agree with that. I actually think season 1 is a pretty solid season overall. Now, I mentioned the episode Vertigo in that Ed and Eddy video that I made for the complete series set that I got. But yeah, that's not the only episode that I really like. As of recently, I've been watching episodes from that season alongside the other ones, and some other ones I really like are Flea Bitten Ed. That's probably one of my favorites from the season. Look Into My Eds, Dawn of the Eds, Avast Your Eds, and again, you'd be surprised how many episodes have the fucking Ed in the title. I mean, I get that's the point, but yeah, season 1 had a lot of really classic episodes, and I also do really like the humor. Like, for example, in that Vertigo episode, that's probably gotta have some of my favorite slapstick in the season, which in the, well, not just the season, but in the series. But yeah, I also love the Dawn of the Eds episode where the Eds are trying to like go watch like an R-rated movie about robots, and then they end up in a junkyard and they start thinking it's like some alien dystopian planet. Yeah, that was a great one. And Flea Bitten Ed, they find out Ed's allergic to rabbits, and they have to find a cure for him. And yeah, again, season 1 just had a lot of really entertaining episodes. But yeah, it's not quite my favorite, as you can see by the tier list placement. I don't really have any issues with it. It's just, again, I think the later seasons get better. As for example, season 2, and this is probably my second favorite season overall, which is kind of it's good that it's the second season because it just shows how great the freaking show was. As early as season 2, we already got a season that's really good. Well, I mean, season 1 is great too, but yeah, season 2 has a lot more episodes that I really liked. 1+1 = that. That's a pretty great one. I like to call that one the fucking drugs episode because it's really fucking crazy. Again, it was like they were on drugs making that one. There's also again other ones that I really like too. Rent to Ed. That's probably one of my favorites. They basically the Eds basically just run around everywhere, and I don't quite know how to describe it fully, but again, that one's just got a lot of my favorite jokes in the show as well. Honor Thy Ed, where they end up breaking into a quote haunted house. That one's fucking hilarious as well. Ed, I love that one too. Oh yeah, and there's also the classic Mirror Mirror on the Ed, which again is a pretty huge classic. It's the one where like all the Eds like swap personalities after doing a truth or dare thing, and again, it's just hilarious seeing all the Eds impersonate each other. But yeah, again, season 2 is quite a great season. Although once again, it is not my favorite. That one is season 3. Yeah, this is definitely my favorite season out of all of them. Not even saying that any of the other ones are bad. Like fuck no, most of the seasons are pretty great. But yeah, season 3 again. This one just has on some of my favorite episodes in the series. First we have Mama's Little Ed, which I think some people will probably know that one by the Had a Discipline, which again that's a pretty huge classic meme. Yeah, and we also have again other really good episodes. Like It Came from Outer Ed. That one was a pretty funny one where like I think no wait I'm getting that episode confused with another one. Oh yeah, and ironically it's the one that's in the same season. The Day the Ed Stood Still. That one's a fucking amazing one. It's an alien parody and a really funny one at that. And again, it's just a really another really good one. I think the only real one that I wasn't a huge fan of in this season was, I think, well, I actually, wait, I don't think It Smells Like an Ed was in that season, but yeah, season 3 was another good one, and now we have the season where, again, we're kind of transitioning back into the ones that I think are great, but not necessarily top tier, and that season is season 4. Yeah, in my opinion, I think this was the last really good season of the show. I mean, I'm not saying it's the last good season, like, again, I wouldn't quite say that, but this was the last one that I thought was really freaking good, season 4. Now, I think this is the season where I think some of the more weak episodes started to pop up, like, I think this is the season where It Smells Like an Ed actually was. Now, I know that's a hated one, and I don't know if I don't think I absolutely despise it. It's just not a very good one. I think it could have been done better. And there's also Your Ed Here, which was another one that I wasn't a huge fan of. But on the other end of the scale, this season has a lot of really freaking hilarious episodes. I mean, this has An Ed Is Born, which is one of the funniest episodes of the series, especially Rolf. Rolf in that episode is fucking hilarious. Little Ed Blue, the one where Ed gets a pebble in his shoe and he basically is like the anti-version of Ed. I mean, he even screams at his sister, which was a really satisfying moment. Twist of Ed, that was another pretty fantastic one. It basically puts a twist on the Canker sister dynamic, and it has like Ed and Double D like terrorizing the Cankers for a change. And I know a lot of this one's pretty divisive, but I actually really liked the episode Sorry Wrong Ed. I thought that was a pretty entertaining one. I know a lot of people again hate that one, but personally I actually liked it. I know most of the people hate that episode for Double D, but I didn't really think he was a dickhead in that one. And there's also Take This Ed and Show It, which is probably my favorite episode of the season and one of my favorites in the series as well. But yeah, season 4 again, another pretty great season, even if there are a couple that aren't that great. But yeah, now time to move on to the infamous season 5. And yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say that this season is probably considered by a lot of people the worst season of the show, and crap, I've even heard quite a bit of people say that this episode was flat out terrible or bad or whatever type of whatever you think of it. But yeah, personally, I don't think this season is actually all that bad. Now, again, you can tell by its placement that I definitely don't think it's as good as the previous four, and yeah, again, I don't know what to quite say about this one now. I do think this season is pretty overhated by a lot of people. I swear, the people fucking hate this one, and don't get me wrong, it's the weakest one, but again, I didn't think it was that bad. It did have a couple really entertaining episodes. I think most of the specials actually came from this one, and the episode of Fistful of Ed, I think that one's actually pretty divisive as well, but I personally really liked that episode, mainly for the ending where Eddy actually stands up for Double D. I thought that was a good little ending there, but yeah, now one thing that this season I think did worse than the other four is, one thing I do gotta say is a lot of the episodes did focus on, well, mainly making the Ed suffer, like a Smile for the Ed, which is by far one of the worst episodes. It's basically an Eddy torture porn, and again, there's a lot of other ones that could be fit into that description as well. But again, I don't hate season 5, it's just the weakest one, and it's one of the only seasons in B tier. But again, I'm not gonna put it any lower because I don't think it's that bad, but again, it is the worst season of the show. But thankfully, this was pretty much the season where the show ended, but not necessarily the complete end for this series, because then we have season 6, which, again, this one's incredibly short, literally only 2 episodes, and the only one that I've actually seen was May I Have This Ed. I haven't seen Look Before You, Ed, but May I Have This Ed, that was a pretty entertaining episode. I did really like that one. It mainly focused on a school dance, and it had a lot of really funny slapstick, and yeah, again, good episode, but I'm not putting it as high as the other ones, because again, I've only really seen half of it, and again, it's not a full season, so I think that I can only really put it in B tier, but yeah, again, May I Have This Said was a great episode, all things considered, though, but yeah, now we have the specials, which I'd like to talk about. Okay, I'm just gonna be honest, 2 of the specials are actually 3 of them. I actually just watched today, so you're gonna hear my fresh, new form thoughts on those seasons, but it's mainly the Christmas, Halloween, and, well, the Christmas Halloween specials, and also the Eds are coming, but I did see Hanky, Painty, Hullabaloo a little bit ago, but yeah, first we're going to talk about Jingle Jingle Jangle, which was the first season, or wait, not the first season, I meant the first episode of the show, and yeah, I really liked the special. If you're asking what it revolves around, Eddy actually ends up going through his presents in the attic, and he finds out that he just got clothes for Christmas, and he just runs around runs around the cul-de-sac trying to get involved with the other kids' Christmas so he could steam them out of their presents, and it did result in a lot of funny stuff. And you also have a Double D and Ed trying to convince Eddy that Christmas isn't all just about getting, it's also about giving. And then Eddy ends up like changing the light on the Christmas tree, and people think that he finally realized the Christmas spirit, and then Santa delivers the sack of presents to the kids, and then Eddy just freaking runs off with it and tries to steal everyone's presents. And yeah, again, there was a lot of funny stuff, and my favorite moment was definitely the kind of showdown with Eddy and Ed Pratt. Well, I think that's what the showdown was about, but yeah, it was hilarious seeing Ed and Eddy fighting over the freaking sack. And again, this episode did have a lot of really funny slapstick, and it was a pretty great Christmas special. Yeah, the next episode we're going to talk about is Hanky, Painty, Hullabaloo. I think this is the next special, and this one was a Valentine's Day special. Now, I don't really like Valentine's Day specials all that much. I just think a lot of them are really generic, and they are just way too, I guess you could say, sappy for my liking, and again, they're just really not for me. Not to say there's zero good Valentine's Day specials, because I mean, there are definitely some good ones, like the one that SpongeBob did. That was a great one, and This is another one that I thought was pretty great. Yeah, Hanky, Painty, Hullabaloo might even be my favorite. If you're asking what this episode revolves around, it actually, I think, starts out with the Tankers. May, the blonde Tanker, is trying to give Ed a Valentine's Day card, and Ed, like usual, just runs away, and it does leave her heartbroken. And one thing that I really liked about this episode is what Ed Double D does. Double D is probably one of my favorite characters on the show. I really like his really sweet and kind-hearted nature, and that's exactly what's shown here. He ends up giving May a Valentine because of how heartbroken she was from what Ed did. And crap, if you even look at the Valentine's Day card, which I might actually look for, he actually crosses out the one that he was supposed to give to Naz and just ends up giving it to May because he thinks she deserves it. Again, that's a pretty sweet moment. And again, another thing I love about this episode is just, I guess you'd say, the kind of satire it has on Valentine's Day specials. It even has freaking Jimmy and Sarah as little cupids making everyone fall in love with each other. And I think what really makes this episode hilarious is just Rolf. I mean, he's Rolf. I think Rolf is probably my favorite character in the show. I mean, I know it's kind of an obvious one, but he's just really fucking hilarious. And I love his reaction to all the Valentine's Day stuff. And again, I think that's also a pretty good representation of how, I guess you'd say, lonely people are on Valentine's Day. But yeah, again, I've kind of rambled on a lot about this episode, but yeah, it's a really good Valentine's Day special, and I recommend giving it a watch. Anyways, the next episode we're going to be talking about is the Halloween special, Boo Ha Ha, which I think I actually have I actually do have all of the specials in H here, because, I mean, all four of them were good, but yeah, Boo Ha Ha, I fucking love this one. If you're asking what this one revolves around, it's Halloween time, and Eddy and Double D are on their way to Ed's house so they can get him so they can go trick or treating. I think it's in this map that Eddy's brother gave to him. It's of Spookyville, and I think what I really like about this episode is it's fucking Ed in this episode. Before they actually went to go get Ed, he was like binging on a bunch of horror movies, and I think that results in a lot of what makes this episode hilarious, because with all the interactions with Ed and the cul-de-sac kids, Ed just sees their costumes and he has all these like dissimulated hallucinations, and he thinks they're monsters, and I just love fucking Ed's reaction to each one, and it just gets procedurally more crazy as it goes on. And it even and at the end they find out that the map was actually just a prank from Eddy's brother. They just ended up going through a circle and ended up back in the cul-de-sac. And then at the end, Ed stops having those horrific hallucinations, and ironically, it was at the one moment where they could have benefited from it. It's where all the cul-de-sac kids find all the Eds in a ditch, and they're about to beat the shit out of them, like what usually happens in the show. But yeah, again, Boo Ha Ha was again a really good special. It might be my least favorite of the four specials in all reality, but again, it's still a great special overall. And the next one we're going to be talking about is, I think this was like the last true episode before the movie itself. The Eds Are Coming. Yet again, another really funny episode. If you're asking what this one revolves around, Jimmy and Johnny end up both having hallucinations about what they think is a bunch of aliens invading Rolf's house, and it leads like all the kids in the cul-de-sac thinking aliens are trying to invade the cul-de-sac, and they end up all I guess you'd say preparing and ready to storm the house to try and save Rolf. But then at the end, it just turns out that it's just his parents or his all their relatives visiting. And again, this one is a bit harder to explain, or there's not much else to say about it. But again, I think this was a pretty solid episode to end off the whole show. Well, I mean, it's not the finale of the show, but I think it's like the last real episode. And again, it's another very entertaining one. Now on to the movie, which is the finale movie, Big Picture Show. This is how you freaking do a finale. One thing I gotta say about Cartoon Network shows, just in general, is a lot of them tend to have pretty piss poor endings. I just gotta be honest. A lot of them either really just leave a lot more questions than answers, and again, like, Cartoon Network shows tend to not have very good endings. Ed, Ed and Eddy, on the other hand, is one of the few Cartoon Network shows that does not have a bad ending. It's actually a very satisfying one. If you're asking what the movie mostly revolves around, the Eds, it actually leads off at the end of one of their scams. It must have been a really fucked up scam because pretty much everyone in the cul-de-sac wants them dead, and so they try to leave the cul-de-sac, and they're on a journey to find Eddie's brother, and yeah, it lead to a lot of slapstick, but one thing that I love about Big Picture Show is it shows that Ed and Eddy, it's not just a simple mindless show where no one has any character development whatsoever, because this episode, especially toward, well, I mean, this movie, especially towards the later half, it has a lot of character development for pretty much everyone. I mean, with Double D in this episode, or in this movie, he goes from the kind of timid a character who doesn't really have a whole lot of courage or confidence, and he ends up gaining that. And one of a scene that I would like to specifically bring forth is the scene where Double D and Eddy have an argument, and this also gives, well, just towards the end of this one, gives a lot of development to Eddy himself. Not only does he actually admit that what he's done is wrong, but he also reveals that the reason why he's done all these scams and again acted like a huge jerk is because he wanted the other kids to think he was cool, and it was also a result of Eddy's brother's harassment and abuse. And again, another thing that I also really love about this movie is this actually leads to the Eds actually being accepted by the cul-de-sac kids. And again, this was just a really great way to end off the show. And while I wish there could be some more Ed and Eddy content, it's at least good that we got this very entertaining, very solid ending. And this is the third Ed and Eddy item in the top tier alongside seasons 2 and 3. But yeah, I think this video, it was a lot of just me rambling on about Ed and Eddy, but again, it's one of my favorite Cartoon Network shows and one of my favorite cartoons or shows of all time as well. It's a very entertaining and very great Cartoon Network show. But anyways, I think this video is long enough. Well, it's actually not that long compared to the other ones, only about less than 25 minutes. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and see you guys in the next one.